All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome in. We are off and running on a Saturday morning edition of the Women's Basketball Rundown, continuing our coverage of the Women's Conference Championship weekend. How are you doing, everybody? My name is Kadarius Washington, and it is a pleasure to have you in. So let's go ahead and get into these games, shall we? We're going to start with the SEC quarterfinals on yesterday, and South Carolina taking care of Vanderbilt 84-63. South Carolina, Chloe Kitts having a game-high 25 points and 10 rebounds, and Mylasia Fawiley set the tone early in this game on both ends of the floor and made some big shots late in the game. She had 15 points, and the only three that she made was a buzzer beater in transition to end the first quarter. A pretty electric shot if you saw the game live or you saw the highlights of it. And Vanderbilt, South Carolina was just a little too much for them. I mean, they did make things interesting late in the game. Michaela Blakes, the reigning SEC Freshman of the Year, made a big three with 4:22 left in the fourth quarter to cut South Carolina's lead to 5. But Chloe Kitts ultimately took over, scoring 11 of South Carolina's last 16 points to ice the game for the Gamecocks. All right, the next game, we have Oklahoma defeating Kentucky 69-65. Reagan Beers, the star for Oklahoma, having 20 points and 11 rebounds. And Oklahoma had to claw back in this one. They came back down 10 in the second half. And Georgia Amore for Kentucky scored 29 points. And Clara Stack had 12 points and 16 rebounds. But ultimately, it wasn't enough. And Kentucky, I think they're in a little bit of trouble here because this is their fourth loss in the last 5 games to ultimately end the season. They shot 4 for 23 from the field. From 3. That's 17%. And Amore made 2 of those threes out of 8 total in the game. And Oklahoma shot the ball. They didn't shoot the ball well either. They shot 31% from the field and won anyway, while Kentucky shot 38%. And Oklahoma will face South Carolina. That's a 4:30 tip-off game on ESPN2. And the last time these two teams met, you might remember, South Carolina dominated them 101-60 in historic fashion. That game was on January 19th. All right, on to Texas and Ole Miss. Texas defeated Ole Miss 70-63. And this was a game of fouls here because there was a total of 53 personal fouls between the two teams. Madison Booker, the reigning SEC Player of the Year, she fouled out with 19 points in the game, and she fouled out in the final minute of that game. Kyla Oldacre was a perfect 3 for 3 from the field, 12 points off the bench. She had 4 fouls and 3 alone in the first half. But I'll tell you this, for Ole Miss, KK Deans tried her best to keep them in the game with her shooting 6 for 12 from the field and 5 for 8 from 3. She had 20 points in that one. And Madison Scott for Ole Miss, she had 14, 9, and 7 and shot 5 for 7 from the field. All right, and the last game from that one, LSU destroying Florida, 101-87. Anissa Morrow, no surprise, with another double-double, but in historic fashion, as she set an LSU record 36 points for the tournament game, and her 28th double-double of the season. And no Flau'jae Johnson. Remember, she's out for the tournament with shin inflammation, but is expected back in the NCAA tournament. And looks like the Gators season is seemingly coming to an end. And Texas will be facing LSU. That game is at 7 o'clock tonight on ESPN2. And the last time these teams met, Texas won the game 65-58. And an interesting little stat about that one, both teams shot an identical 21 for 63 from the field. That's 33% there. All right, on to the ACC. North Carolina taking care of Florida State 60-57, and neither team shot the ball well in this game. Both of them shot 32% from the field. Tania Latson of Florida State struggled in this game, 13 points and 3 for 14 from the field, and Michaela Timpson was the highlight of the Seminoles, having 8 blocks and leading all scorers with 15 points, and Alyssa Utsby and Gakdang combined for 34 of the team's 53 rebounds, and Renaya Kelly returned for the Tar Heels after missing the last 3 games with an injury and hit 2 big shots in the last couple of minutes of the game, and Lainey Grant iced the game with 2 free throws. All right, NC State defeated Georgia Tech 73-72. Isaiah James, the star for the Wolfpack, led with 16 points. Zoe Brooke and Tilda Triger chipped in with double digits with 14 and 12 respectively. And a disastrous finish for Georgia Tech as they failed to get a shot off with 7 seconds left in the game. They didn't have any timeouts. They went the length of the court. All they needed was a 2, and they did not get a shot off. And NC State will be facing North Carolina at noon on ESPN2. And the last time that these two teams met, North Carolina won the game 66-56. Renaya Kelly scored 23 points in the game. All right, Notre Dame defeated Cal 73-64. Hannah Hidalgo had 25 points in the game, and Cal was sloppy with the ball, 28 turnovers, and Notre Dame scoring 28 points off of those turnovers. And Notre Dame will play Duke at 2:30 on ESPN2, who destroyed Louisville 61-48, and the score was probably closer than the game actually was. I watched a little bit of that game, and that was not even close there. And the last time Notre Dame and Duke played each other, Notre Dame won that game 64-49. All right, on to the Big Ten. USC taking care of Indiana 84-79. Juju Watkins having a Juju Watkins game, having 31 points and 10 rebounds. Kiki Area-Finn also having a double-double, 21 and 10. And Watkins and Talia von Oelhoffen came up clutch when the game got close at 71-68, and they hit back-to-back threes to help propel them to the win. And a lot of foul trouble here for the Trojans as well, as Kiki Area-Finn fouled out late in the fourth quarter, and Juju Watkins and von Oelhoffen each had 4, and Kennedy Smith and Malia Samuels had 3. And Michigan crushing Maryland yesterday, 98-71. That game was not competitive, folks. Silas Swartz and Olivia Olsen, the freshmen from Michigan, combining for 42 points, with Jordan Hobbs having 23. And Sarah Tibiasu had 25 points. She did everything she could anyway to try to keep Maryland in the game, but there were no match for the Wolverines. And Michigan will be facing off against the Trojans at 3 p.m. on Big Ten Network. And the last time these two teams met, USC won the game 78-58. And Juju Watkins had 31 points in that one. All right, UCLA taking care of Nebraska 85-74. And I thought UCLA was going to be in a little bit of trouble in this game, especially midway through. But they went on a 13-2 run when the game was tied at 47 in the third, and they finally put the game out of reach late in the fourth quarter. Lauren Betts had 28 and 13, and Gabriela Jaquez with a season-high 23 points and 9 rebounds, and Kiki Rice had 14 in the game for UCLA. And Nebraska, they're pretty much going to be holding on to hope here for Selection Sunday next week, and Ohio State surviving a close one against Iowa, 60-59. Hannah Stokey, Lucy Olsen, and Sydney Afolter each having 14 for the Hawkeyes. And Hannah Stokey attempted a mid-range shot in the fourth quarter as the time expired, but it ultimately didn't fall for the Hawkeyes. Cotty McMahon for Ohio State had 18 points, hit 2 big free throws with 6 seconds left to give Ohio State the win, and Iowa's 11-game Big Ten tournament win streak comes to an end, but I believe that they are definitely going to be safe to make the NCAA tournament. And the Buckeyes will be facing off against UCLA. That game is at 5:30 p.m. on Big Ten Network. And the last time these two teams faced off against each other, UCLA won that one 65-52. All right, on to the Big 12. West Virginia taking care of Kansas State 73-69. J.J. Quinterly led all scorers with 24 points and shot 50% from the field. Quinterly also had a huge steal in this one with less than a minute left to set up the potential game-winning layup. And Jordan Thomas having 11 points off the bench. And K-State's leading scorer, Kennedy Taylor, came off the bench as well with 24 points. And then TCU defeating Colorado 69-62. Haley Van Lith, the star for the Horned Frogs this season, the transfer. She made 5 threes in the game, had 24 points, and Sedana Prince had 18, and Donovan Hunter had 13, with Colorado now teetering on the edge of making the tournament with Selection Sunday coming on next Sunday. And the Horned Frogs will be facing off against West Virginia. That game is at 4 p.m. on ESPN+, and the last time these two teams met, TCU won that one 71-50, and Haley Van Lith and Sedana Prince combined for 46 points in that one. All right, Baylor defeating Iowa State 69-63, and Iowa State's offensive woes peeked its ugly head in this one, having a 0-point scoring drought with 5 minutes in a 5-minute span in the second quarter before ultimately closing the first half on a 9-0 run and to get the score to 38-33 Baylor's way. And Iowa State went scoreless again in a 3-minute span to end the game. I mean, these offensive woes have been plaguing them all season, despite Audie Crooks having 32 points. And a couple of other stats here. No other Iowa State player made more than 3 field goals in this game. Addie Brown just coming off of that 41-point performance yesterday for the Cyclones. She only had 6 points, but was the only other Iowa State player to even attempt 10 shots, while all the other ones did not attempt more than 5, while Baylor had 4 players in double figures in this game. And then Texas and Oklahoma State surviving a close one against Texas Tech, 62-59. Now, I'll say this, Texas Tech, they did have chances in this one, especially late in the game, but ultimately they just could not capitalize. And Staley Hurd for the Cowgirls had a big game, 34 points and scoring 24 of them in the second half. And Baylor will be taking on Oklahoma State. That game is at 6:30 p.m. on ESPN+. And the last time they faced each other, Oklahoma State won that game 84-61. All right, that is your quarterfinal recap. As far as the Power 4 is concerned, we do have Big East quarterfinals going on later today, too. We got St. John's taking on UConn. That game is at noon on FS1. St. John's defeated Butler on Thursday in the first round. Then you've got Villanova and Marquette. That's at 2:30. Georgetown and Creighton taking place at 7 o'clock. And Georgetown defeated Providence in the first round of that one on Thursday. And then Xavier taking on Seton Hall at 9:30 p.m. Xavier defeating DePaul in the first round on Thursday as well. And the latter 3 games are going to be on FS2. And the Power 4 semifinal games. First, we got North Carolina taking on NC State. Once again, that game is at noon on ESPN2. Duke and Notre Dame at 2:30, Oklahoma and South Carolina at 4:30, LSU and Texas at 7 p.m. All of those games are on ESPN2. Then we got Michigan taking on USC and Ohio State taking on UCLA. Those games are at 3 and 5:30 respectively on the Big Ten Network. Then we got West Virginia taking on TCU at 4 p.m. and then Oklahoma State taking on Baylor at 6:30. Both of those games are on ESPN+. And we also had a couple of unrivaled games today too for the women's basketball cornucopia yesterday. But we will give you a proper breakdown of those games for our regular women's basketball rundown on Tuesday. Well, friends, that will do it for this edition of the Women's Basketball Rundown. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And be sure to follow me on Twitter or X at CW Talk Sports. That's CWTALKS Sports. And also follow me on Bluesky. I'm there too at CWTALKS Sports. And I will see y'all the next time. Enjoy the games, everyone. Peace.